When we say Obi or nothing, that statement doesn't exist in a vacuum. That statement was not pulled out of the air. That statement is in response to a certain atmosphere. And while we are fully in support of the coalition building process, it needs to be remembered by all parties concerned that that's exactly what it is, a coalition building process. We are not a monolith as a movement, like you rightly said, and even the coalition itself is a work in progress. So when we say Obi or nothing, coming from a movement that is named the Obidient Movement, I think it's right on the nose what we mean. But for people who may choose to misconstrue it or put a different spin on it, let me spell it out plainly. It is simply a statement that is affirmative of where we stand in the political process. We have chosen Peter Obi, right, in the midst of so many players who have a right to run and who are capable of running. Peter Obi, a movement coalesced around him very organically. He didn't pay for it. He couldn't pay for it. It's very organic. It is people that are passionate about the country. It is people that are passionate about what we want to see in the Nigeria of the immediate and in the near-term future. He represents all of those values. We can capture it in several words: character, competence, capacity. All right? So when we say Peter Obi or nothing, we are affirming where we stand.
Fellow Nigerians, Kasala don dey show small for ADC. Obidient don't come and they tell ADC leaders say the Obidient movement grew organically. Say Peter Obi did not sponsor it, meaning say it was not funded by Peter Obi, say na organic and natural supporter. This matter don dey long ago because that ADC na so lion full am. Una sure say they go give Peter Obi this ticket come 2027. Make una watch the video.
In the past few years, looked at the situation and really, in a very organic process, evolved to say, you know what, we want to be a part of this process. And in being a part of this process, we need to look at the playing field and determine who amongst these players, right, best embodies the values that we have. And what are those values? Values that drive a Nigeria that works for everybody, not for some people. And Peter Obi, a movement coalesced around him very organically. He didn't pay for it. He couldn't pay for it. It's very organic. It is people that are passionate about the country. It is people that are passionate about what we want to see in the Nigeria of the immediate and in the near-term future. He represents all of those values. We can capture it in several words: character, competence, capacity. All right? So when we say Peter Obi or nothing, we are affirming where we stand. Does that mean we have rejected the coalition building process? No, we are part of it. We are currently engaging. If you look at the news around the country, Obidient, since his official joining of the ADC, have started making moves to actually join the partisan structure itself. And let's address the elephant in the room. Having said all that I said, a certain rhetoric started to emerge, which we will not be shy about responding to. A certain rhetoric that made it look like there's a predetermined outcome, right, of the process. And let me say this way. If I were the spokesperson of the ADC, here's what I would say to people who are loudly, not insulting anyone, but loudly and rightfully so, affirming their support for a specific individual. I would speak to their passion. I would not poo-poo it. I would harness that passion. I would seek to gain their trust. And what do you mean by gaining the trust? I would reassure them, because there is a trust deficit in this country in the political space. We have seen movements come and go. We have political slogans come and go. We have all of the things that are going on, and people really are jaded about all that. And there's an uncompromising position about, you know what, we have to get this right. We do not want a country anymore where the aspirations of young people are centered around how to leave the country. All right, so I would seek to gain trust with this demographic. I would not seek to lecture them, because truly you do not have a lot of moral authority as far as these young people are concerned, and that's just the truth. I would not lecture. I would seek to gain consensus. I would seek to gain their trust. I would seek to reassure that, hey, listen guys, we hear you, we understand you. Okay, so here's what we're going to do in this process. We're going to make it as transparent as possible, right? We're going to make sure that all voices are heard. I would not seek to be shutting down any voices at such an early stage in the process.
Okay, so you've said a couple of things. You've affirmed that the Obidient Movement is also part of the coalition building process. You're not against the coalition. You've said there are so many individuals involved who have the right to run, who are also capable and they are competent. And then, of course, you know that there have been calls for all the aspirants to close ranks. So in that kind of situation, would you still support the APC, even if Peter Obi does not eventually pick up the ticket as the presidential candidate? The ADC.
The ADC.
Yes.
Right. Again, like I said, this is a movement that has organically grown around a specific individual. And we will not be apologetic about that. And we will leave no one in doubt that our loyalty is to the country called Nigeria. Our political allegiance is to the leader of this movement, Peter Obi. That support, that very granular, very organic support is non-negotiable. It will not be subjected to horse trading, right? We will not sacrifice the values that we hold on the altar of political convenience. We have interactions. And again, this is one of the things that endear a lot of people who support this movement in the man. We have interactions with him all the time, right? And he understands where the people who support him stand, right? We are not for sale. We envision a Nigeria that is led by a person like Peter Obi. Fortunately for us, we don't have to imagine him. He exists, right? He has a track record, right? So we can point to an individual and say, this guy looks like the guy that will give us the kind of country that we want. And that is what the support is all about. Now, are you going to come tomorrow and tell us, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to be, stepping back from the race. Okay, so fine. We all step down from the race. But we do not see a situation where the conductor becomes the driver, in a manner of speaking. We believe, in as much as we are part of the coalition building process, right? We believe that when we put the players on the board, in every team, you put your best players forward. We are unequivocally saying that we believe that this is the best striker we have on this team. And we believe that he should lead the squad.
But you are just one of the several voices.
Yes.
So yes. Your voice alone cannot determine
and we are not saying so.
Emerges.
We are saying, don't tell us to shut up. That's what we are saying. Like I said earlier, we have not gone around insulting anyone. We have gone around preaching the message of, this is the guy that we believe in, Mr. Peter Obi. That is without prejudice to anyone else. It's a democratic process, right? We recognize other people's right to support who they want to support. But that right or that recognition does not then mean that we have lost the focus, right, of who our support is for. Now, if a situation emerges tomorrow and we see clearly through a process that, all right, it looks like we might be needing to make some compromises, that conversation can then be had. But if you out of the gate, from the jump, begin to make statements and begin to take a position that makes it look like there's a predetermined outcome, we have an obligation to ourselves and what we stand for to remind everybody that this is not a fait accompli. There's no predetermined outcome here. We do have our agenda and we are not apologizing about that agenda. So let's then come together and have a conversation. And like I said, it's one thing to have rhetoric coming from different stalwarts, maybe online, people talking. It's another thing to make official statements, right? If I do not know if the party position is in alignment with Mr. Abdullahi's very recent statements about the Obidient Movement. I don't know if it is the ADC saying those things about the Obidient Movement or if that is his personal opinion. I do not necessarily want to conflate both things. But I want to reiterate, we are at the table for this conversation. But please, do not make the mistake of thinking that we are a walkover. Back in 2022-23, there was so much rhetoric about 4 people tweeting in a room and, hey, we said we'll meet at the polls. And we met at the polls, and let's not relitigate how that all turned out, right? So we're ready to have the conversation. We're here to have the conversation. But please do not start to become undemocratic by seeking to silence dissenting voices. If these young people are upset, rightly so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But how do you avoid the trap? As you rightly said, there is the stereotype that has been stuck on the movement regardless. You know how political actors act. You know the the shenanigans and the maneuverings and the messaging and the communication, you know all of that. So how do you avoid the trap? How is the movement going to evolve their communication style and their strategy for 2027 in order to ensure that, you know, the passion and the engagement that is there is not misconstrued as a threat, but seen as a tool for better governance and inclusion for the youth who have such large numbers and definitely want to be engaged?
Thank you for that question. You see, it's one thing to put a spin or to create a narrative about something. It's another thing for that to be the reality. I mean, you're not wrong when you say people call us all sorts of names. But on the ground, in reality, we know who the real mobsters are. We know who the real gangsters are. We know the people who prevented people from voting by deploying thugs and violence. We have never been violent. Our assertiveness should not be conflated with violence. We have never attacked people for any reason, not for their ethnic affiliations, not for any of that, not for their political leanings. What we are very vociferous about and will continue to be about is the message of we want a Nigeria that works. Enough of the horse trading with the future of this country, right? Enough of the political chess playing. We want authentic leadership that listens to the people. We want leadership that actually takes action driven by the needs of the governed. We do not want a pseudo-monarchy in this country anymore. And there is no amount of spin they are going to put on that that's going to make us stop talking about that. If we are a threat to anybody, we are a threat to every person who has stolen and continues to steal the patrimony of this country. As far as the democratic process is concerned, we will continue to be the bone stuck in your neck. We will continue to be your nemesis if you continue to look for a Nigeria or try to make Nigeria backwards as we've seen in the recent years.
Okay. Now, you talking about the 2023 election. Of course, you talked about the thuggery and the fact that some people were prevented from voting, during the last election. So I'm wondering what lesson, would you say the Obidient Movement has learned from that 2023 election that will serve you better in 2027?
Oh yeah, we did take a lot of lessons. We did take a lot of lessons that are serving us in how we are organizing now. Like I said, the movement was it evolved organically. So maybe a couple of things could have been said about what we could have done better. We've sat back, we've looked at all that, and we have gone through we are going through a very arduous, sometimes painful process of doing the things. We understand the difference between a movement and a political platform. The more, the closer we've drawn, right, to the next elections, the more we've done the work at the grassroots level that is needed to make sure that when we show up at the polls the next time, some of the lapses that we suffered, even though we won the election regardless, some of the lapses that we suffered in terms of organizational structure will not be the problem the next go around.